Today, on the 30th of April, Memoriapolis is leaving early access. After less than 1 year in early access, we have now the full version. And the game has really changed. It was already pretty great when it released, in August of 2024 with only 2 ages, but now it is much more than this. If you haven't seen my first Let's Play, what is Memoriapolis? Basically, in Memoriapolis, you're gonna have one city, but you're gonna go from the Antiquity to the Industrial Revolution with 5 ages, but this is in the same city. You're shaping a dynasty, a culture, a city with wonders, with cultural buildings and much more. So it is a really fresh take on the city building genre with, already a mix of the classic like Anno, but also civilization, right? Because you're moving through the ages. I've also been part of multiple private betas where me and a couple of other players helped the team to develop the best game possible. We tested, their new features, help with feedback, balance, and all of this. So I've already had a chance to play with many of those new features, but today we start fresh, a new game. We're going to play in the classic mode, which is that you have a limited amount of time in each of the ages, but do know that they're working on an endless mode where you'll be able to play as long as you want in each of the age. Similarly, they have now 2 maps. There is the classic map, same map we had before, it's slightly changed, but it's very similar, and a new map that is actually super hard, that is called the snow map. And it's a good time, by the way, to mention that the game is a lot harder than when it first released. Now, what do I mean by hard? I'm not saying that, you won't be able to play it, that you need like a doctorate to be able to play it. Don't worry, that is not what I mean. What I mean is, our first Let's Play, we basically got a perfect score. This is gonna be impossible now. You're not gonna get a perfect score, and you need to deal with that. So let's go with the classic map again this time, but maybe we'll do another one later on with a new map. You start by choosing your destiny. Now, it was noting that every time you move to a new age, you can change your destiny. So for example, in the first age, I can be a craftsman, and then in the second age, I can move to be a philosopher. I think we're actually going to start with a craftsman, because getting more natural resources, especially at the beginning, I think is gonna be quite key. The other one that could be really good is the philosopher, getting more satisfaction out of your cultural buildings. I could also see that being very strong. But yes, let's start with the craftsman. You can have a completely random name, but you can also change it yourself. So we are going to be Gamer City. As for the name, to thank you, Christoph and Beard, for all of your support as YouTube member. This is for you. It's a good opportunity to take a second to promote indeed that I have YouTube membership tiers that you can join. And with this, you get access in particular to behind the scene videos, a couple of exclusive, and most importantly, for almost all videos, except when there's an embargo, you get access to them early. So for example, for members today, you will already get access to the first 3 episodes of this campaign today. Now, as you can see, the map is pretty big and completely handcrafted. And we can go anywhere. We can start anywhere we want. They have a couple of recommendations, like the riverside over here is a pretty big space with some interesting resources, if I'm not mistaken. We have also the roadside completely on the other side. It also has quite a bit of space and some resources, but you can also choose, a bit more, some interesting one, like completely in the north, where you're gonna have to go through this bridge. So some are definitely harder than others. So where do we go? Well, you click on your villa over here, and then you can place it anywhere. I do suggest you press 6 so that you can have an overview or an overlay of all of the resources. At the beginning, quite important to have wood and stone, but very quickly we're gonna need access also to sand and clay. So for example, here we have sand and clay. Here we have a lot of clay. I think last time we actually started over here. So maybe we try to find another place completely on the other side, potentially on this side. Yes, we have a bit of iron, we have some clay, we have some sand pretty much everywhere. And the stone is on this side, on that side. Okay, so maybe we go completely, in the middle of nowhere like this. I mean, iron, I have time before I need iron. So maybe we don't really care about this iron and we just go somewhere over here. Now we will be able to rotate also, right? With X and Z, you can rotate your city. And you see those red things, this is where roads are going to be created. Now in version 1, the roads will be able to move, you'll be able to construct on top of roads, so it's not as important as before. But yeah, let's start over here, click on build, and we have started. The first family heritage of your reign has been completed. Let's press pause right away, but it marks the beginning of the first era, Antiquity. Each age will come at an end when your city center has reached its 5th evolution and when there's no more, cycle. Time is running out. We have 9,600 cycle between now and the complete end of the game. So let's dive right in. Here is our villa, our city center if you wish, Antiquity level 1. This also provides you with a bit of stock. You can see here is our stock. This is what you can see over here. We have those 3 resources right now. A bit of food, actually quite a lot of food, a bit of wood, and a bit of stone. And the limits are here 200, 200. We also have 20 people, and those 20 are not working, so that's great. We only have 3 citizens. We are just starting, so memory point, we'll talk about that in the future, blueprint also, and coins. What is very important is that your villa, your center of your city in each age, will have 5 levels. You're going to want to go through those levels by clicking on improvement here and trying to match those constraints or those requirements. So we need 90 citizens and we need these resources over here. Now it's worth noting that you don't need any food, so it's good to focus a bit on this early. And you're going to want people, which obviously, basically people join when they're happy, and this will unlock a lot of things. Now in terms of your people, they don't create house. You don't create houses. There is not a building that is called a house. They will create neighborhoods on their own, completely, a bit like in Foundation, but in Foundation, you can at least tell them where. Here, you don't even tell them where. This is based on this overlay over here of the attraction. You have some buildings that are going to create attraction, some buildings that are going to reduce attraction, and basically where it's blue, where it's deep blue, this is where there's good attraction, meaning people are going to come and create those districts, and then they start creating houses in those districts too. So your goal is to influence where they're going to put those houses by deciding where you want to put attractive building, but most importantly, your goal is to have enough productions to manage all of this, right? And then there's going to be much more. I don't want to overwhelm you right now before we get started, but there is 2 last things I do want to show you. One is the Esplanade. The Esplanade is very important because it shows you how are you doing versus where you should be. Each age, so we have 5 ages at the top, right? Antiquity, Middle Ages, Renaissance, Age of Enlightenment, and Industrial Revolution. Each of those ages, you will have 4 checkpoints, 3 that are kind of silver and 1 that is gold at the end. So when you get to cycle 300, for example, you will have a 3rd checkpoint. And if we have enough resource points, we will get this silver coin. If we don't have, people are not going to be happy. We're going to have a problem. Same for the population satisfaction, same for the faction power and building points. Building points are basically, how many things have you built? It's pretty simple. So this is going to be really critical, basically, to look at it from time to time and see, oh, maybe we need a bit more resource points. Maybe we need a bit more faction, those type of things. And then last but not least, the building tree. This is your research tree, right? At each age, you're going to need new things. Right now, we have unlocked only 3 production buildings, the small farm, the cutting camp, and the small quarry. In the future, we'll unlock many more. But more importantly, you can also upgrade these. You can spend those blueprint points that I showed you over here to unlock some new buildings or some upgrades. And of course, if you upgrade, for example, the farm, a basic farm can have 8 fields and each field is producing 6 food per cycle. The first upgrade will give you 10 fields instead of 8. And instead of producing 6, you will produce 12, right? There is also a couple of other things like you're going to have more stock, but most importantly, this will cost you a lot more resource and a lot more people. So actually, to be honest, those, we'll talk about this in the future, but those upgrades are not always easy to know if you should do them or not. And then we have 4 other types of buildings. Let's start with the wonders because that's pretty easy, is each of these 6 factions has 1 wonder. This is one of the very beautiful buildings, huge buildings, right? Like the statue of Zeus or the Circus Maximus, Trajan Forum, right? Those type of things. So those things are going to cost a lot of resources. If you see over here, this huge amount of resource. There's also pretty strong constraint. So we're not going to be able to unlock these ones anytime soon. Then in the kind of in between the cultural and the wonders, you have the services. These ones with prerequisite and cost are a bit lower, but they're still quite high. And there is again only 1 for specific factions, and not all factions will have 1. These are quite important building for your city to get access to all of the functionalities. For example, if you want to get access to trade, you need a Macelium. If you want to get access to political decrees, laws, you need a Senatus. So these ones we're going to try to get to for sure. And then, as I said, sort of the opposites of the wonders are the cultural buildings. These ones are way smaller. They're also a lot easier to unlock. For example, the prerequisite for the first level is just to move your family heritage, your center, if you wish, to level 2. So we're going to unlock these ones quickly. And this is going to be, how you sort of drive a couple of things, in particular, how you drive your attractiveness, but also how you drive the satisfaction of your people. I know I'm throwing a lot of things at you if you haven't seen this game, but that's because I'm trying to show you that there is a lot in this game. This is very deep and really cool. And then last thing, we won't go into details, but there is buildings that are called proximity. Right now, we only have one called the surveyor cabin. In the future, we'll unlock a couple of other ones, and I'll explain when that happens. Now, as I said, we have unlocked only the surveyor cabin, and we've unlocked a couple of production buildings. I suggest that you go right away for cutting camps and small quarries. You wait a bit for the small farm because we have quite a bit of reserve right now. So let's go. You can see at the top of here the cost, right? This is 10 stone, for example. This is 10 wood. So this is not a lot. Now these production buildings, you can place them anywhere you want. But if I place a quarry over here, it's not going to give me anything because there's nothing to get anywhere close. Versus here, you can see there is a lot of stone, right? So if I place my quarry over here, for example, there is 2,000 stone in kind of in range of this building. So that is great. Now you cannot put this over here. This would be better if there's 3,000, but you cannot do it because it is too far from the construction zone. This circle over here is a circle that comes, from my city center, and this is where I can build at the beginning. Now, in the future, this is going to be expanded, etc. But there is this that you cannot just build anywhere you want right away. So this is why it's quite important to be smart about where we put this. But here, I can see definitely there is some resources on this side. So we're going to go and put the first one there. And we've created a road, by the way. And we're going to do the same on the other side, trying to put it as far as possible from the center of the city so that we get access to quite a lot of stone. Wrong. So I'm going to turn it so that the road is just in front. Yeah, here it is. So 2,000. It's not huge, but it's better than nothing. This is using already quite a bit of a stone, but now we have still, of wood. We still have some stone, but we have a problem, which is we don't have enough workers. We have used some workers to build this, and there's also workers that are going to be needed to maintain, like to actually work there. But now with a couple of turns, sorry, I didn't mention this, these are your cycles. This is like your turns, right? They move, unless you're paused, they just start moving. So we've already done 6 cycles out of the 1,200 we have in Antiquity. So at the beginning, it's good to pause anytime you're trying to do something. Next, I want to do the same for wood. I see there is a bit of wood over here. So we're going to place it there as far as possible. Try to get quite a bit of trees out in the range. And then we'll do the same probably on the other side. The other reason why I'm trying to put all of these pretty far from the center is they create negative attractiveness, as you can imagine. So you don't want them too close. One thing you may want to do if you don't have access to good resources close by is use one of these surveyor cabin. This will enable you to extend your construction zone. So for example, if I put one over here, now I have a construction zone that is, a lot further apart. I don't suggest you actually build many of these at the beginning because your central zone is going to expand on its own, but sometimes you don't have a choice. Here, I'm going to do it for 2 reasons. I'll show you in a second. But yeah, we're going to do it. So we've started this. That's not bad. We're going to need a couple more workers. So nothing much we can do until that happens. But it is. This has started. So now our stock of stone, by the way, has increased a bit. Instead of 200 to 300. And we have these actual resources in the ground. We can see how much we have. We could potentially do improvement in the future. We could do some of these too, but I'll show you that in the future. We don't need it right away. My workers and population slowly but surely increasing. But yeah, it is. Let's put another cutting camp on this side. I could put it very close or I could put it very far. And that's obviously what we're going to do because now this is 6,000 wood. So it's a lot more wood. We are probably going to put another one as soon as possible. But right now, again, we are low on workers. So at the beginning of the game, workers is really the key kind of blocker. Later on, you will have other blockers, like potentially your resources, your money, the space too. Space is definitely going to be at a premium at some point. So you need to keep that in mind. I didn't mention, but there is obviously a lot of different settings. There is a lot of different displays. For example, the natural resources, in the future, the factions, etc. But for now, this is what's important. I will, of course, also share a lot more details in the future, but if you have any questions about the game, don't hesitate to put in the comments below, because as I said, I've been playing that one for a while, so I feel like I know quite a bit. I'm not saying I'm the expert. I'm sure there are people that are better at it than me, but I definitely know quite a bit. Okay, so let's put one more, and we may do the same for stone pretty soon. Now, let's remember that for improvement here, we're going to need 187 of wood, 150 of stone. We're almost there. We also need 90 people. We're also almost there. So I think we're gonna pause, the production for a second until we get to there, or maybe now I see that we actually have a lot of workers. So we make a lot of stone. So we may put another cutting camp. Then we will probably have to put a farm soon, because right now, we're not making any food. So my storage is going down slowly but surely. Okay, let's continue. And by the way, I'm playing right now on 1 speed. We could also move to 2 speed at some point, but I don't suggest you do that right away, because there's quite a bit of micromanaging that is good to do right now. Okay, it is. Look at this. We're going to be at 90 in a sec. And at the same time, we should have what's needed very soon. We are just missing a couple of wood. Here it is. They tell you that you're ready. So let's do it indeed as soon as you can to unlock many new things. We're going to spend all of these resources, of course, and it also takes 10 turns, but that's going to help us tremendously to grow the city. Let's put one more wood over here. Okay, good. Now, the other reason why I put this surveyor cabin is because I wanted to put my first farms pretty far from the center, because those farms take a lot of space. And if I put farms over here, that means I will have soon, the problem of having to delete those farms, and I didn't want to have to deal with this. So we're going to put the farms over here. There's a lot of open space, right? So this is a perfect place for farms. We put them, as always, as much as possible on the outside of the radius, so that, we go further and we have space for other buildings in the middle. But yeah, let's put the first one maybe over here. We can choose how many fields we want to put. I'm going to put the maximum for sure, because again, I have a lot of space, so that's not a problem. And yeah, 1 should be enough for now, but in the future, we'll definitely put more. Okay, let's continue. It is. The city center has been upgraded. We've unlocked many things. We've unlocked the architectural office. We've unlocked the access to multiple cultural buildings, as well as 1 statue. We also have access now to the satisfaction. There are 5 different satisfaction. I'm going to show them to you over here. You can see them there. One is called health, then safety, belonging, esteem, and creativity. Now, these things are a bit like the needs of your people. If you don't provide those needs, they're going to be very unhappy. They're going to start not giving you as much money. They're going to start, rioting, all those types of things. On the other hand, if you give them a lot of what they want, they're going to give you bonuses. So we start, with those bonuses. Each one of them comes with 1 bonus. So health comes, for example, with a reduction of food consumption of 20%. Safety, reduce the occurrence of incident by 100%. The belonging, increase production of natural and processed resource by 20%. Esteem, increase the tax generation by 20%. And last but not least, the creativity, it decreases the construction time by 20%. So trying to get those bonuses is definitely, a very important goal. But also, as I said, just try to make sure they are not in the red where they start giving you problems. This satisfaction, how does that come? You can see, for example, my health here. It says 110 out of 113. The 113 is how many citizens I have. I have 113 citizens. So if I want all of them to be super happy, I need to provide all of them this health. Now, right now, I'm only satisfying 110 out of the 113. That is enough to get you, the bonus. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I'm sure they are in the wiki. So basically, we can actually probably find it over here. Give me a second. Satisfaction, yes. They don't actually tell us exactly, but I think it's something probably like if you satisfy 80%, you have the bonus. If you satisfy less than, let's say 30% or 20%, you have the malus. And in the middle, you get nothing, right? How do you satisfy it? You satisfy it with the cultural buildings. So those cultural buildings that I mentioned over here, or actually, sorry, services and wonders too, they always come with satisfaction values. So now we have the potential to unlock a couple of these. I'm going to be a bit tactical. Now, the way I want to go is I want to unlock the Oreneum as quickly as possible. This is the green faction. Therefore, I'm going to go for the green faction over here, except it requires sand. Okay, but still, we will unlock it so that I know I want to go for that one. And then I would like, if possible, to also go for the mycelium as quickly as possible. So the mycelium is this one here. This also requires a resource we don't have, but still, let's take it. And then I think it would probably be good to go for this one, the Munimentum, because this enables you to create ramparts, which are a pretty important thing later on. So this is a military function. So let's go with the arena. And the arena is actually cost that like resources we have. So perfect. Now I've spent a lot of my blueprints already. So how do you get blueprints? This is the other thing we've unlocked, the architectural office. The architectural office, you can only have one in your city, so that is pretty critical to upgrade it as soon as we can. Now we could actually upgrade it already, but we don't have those two resources there, so it makes no sense to upgrade it. So we're gonna want to build this one as soon as possible. That is 10 people, okay? So I need to wait a bit of time just to get those 10 people. And similarly for all of those cultural buildings, right? They require some resources, but also some people. So we're gonna jump, 1 minute into the future or something. Oh, no, actually we're not gonna jump 1 minute into the future because we've discovered something. Your notification are at the bottom over here. A notification is a surprising land. Some citizens came to wake up early this morning. It seemed that ancient ruins have been discovered at the edge of our city. So you can click here to find it, and otherwise you can see it on the map, right? They look like ruin. Now for the ruin, you can do two things. You can either repair them, and then you get an actual building. Usually, it is a service, not a service, a cultural building, or you can demolish them. In the future, there will also be other choices, but for now, we can only do those two. Demolishing it will actually give us a lot of resources, as you can see over here, but it will reduce the trust of all faction by 10. Now, the good thing is right now, we don't have any factions, so it is perfect to do the demolition. Why can't I do the demolition? That is strange. Oh, because we don't have enough workers. Sorry, we need 10 workers to demolish. But this is definitely what we're going to do as soon as possible, because as I just said, this is going to give us a lot of resource, and we're pretty low on resource. We're also pretty low on workers, to be frank, but yeah, this is life. This is life. Maybe I built one too many of these. That's okay. That's okay. Okay, now we have enough workers, so let's do this. We're gonna get in 5 turns a lot of these people, and hopefully I also get the 10 workers back as soon as this is finished. Let's see it. Right now I have 2 workers, 3 workers, and when this is finished, 13, yes. So we got them back, not a problem. As I said, architectural office, you probably want to do that as soon as possible. It can be anywhere you want. So I'm thinking we're going to put it over here in the middle of that. Good. It does create a bit of attraction, but not a lot. So that's fine. I'd rather put, cultural buildings close to my district for a reason that I'll explain very, very soon as we actually can do it. So this one is 17 people, 17 and 15. Okay, but we don't have the resource for this. We do have the resource for that one thanks to the we call it the ruin that we did, because we're not actually producing. This is this 4th or 5th resource, the sand, and the one before is the clay. I will show you in a second how to get these ones. For now, I think it's more important for us to try to make a first cultural buildings as soon as we can. So that's why I'm not going to make a production building, which will take, me some of my workers. Okay, we get into the time where you may want to start moving faster, but do keep in mind that you should probably then pause anytime you're thinking about something or, trying to build new things, even if basically it will usually pause automatically when you're trying to build. So it is the building, by the way, right? And we have now 17 workers, so we're ready for the ceramic workshop. So these buildings tend to be bigger, and now you can see this green icon, right, that's appearing on top of those districts. So each of these districts, they have 2 slots. If you put, this cultural building over here, this is a green one, right? You can see the symbol here. This is green, this one is red. So this is the faction sort of that is aligned. So we're going to try basically to align certain neighborhood to certain factions. Sometimes you can get 3 like this. Sometimes very hard, you only get 2. If you can get to 3, great. So let's put 3 there. We're going to build it. It's going to give us 157 of satisfaction for health, and it's going to give us also 68 for another satisfaction over choosing. I think in this case right now, it will be probably important for us to get the belonging that improves the production if possible. So it is. Now let's pause again. You can see 2 of these are green, meaning we have the bonus because we're providing most of my people with it. 3 of them are nothing, right? They're gray. They're not red because we have people satisfied, but we have people not satisfied. So we don't get a bonus, but we don't get a malus either. I think it's going to be, as I said, pretty important to try to make other of these buildings as quickly as possible. But let's also check for the next improvement. What do we need? We need 300 people. We're actually pretty quickly getting there, right? We're already at 240. We also do need 75 of sand and 75 of clay. So we're going to need to create those productions. But as I said, I'm thinking we should probably first create at least one more of this building. Last thing maybe for this episode is we have this signal over there. What is that? This is the first faction. But if you want to learn about this core functionality of the game, you're gonna have to tune in to the next episode. If you're a YouTube member, you can already go watch it. Otherwise, come back tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this new series for Memoriapolis that just released today. A really great game. Thank you to the developer for sending me a key in advance so that I can bring this Let's Play to you already on day one. Please smash like button, it really does help. Do share in the comments any questions, photo requests, and I hope to see you next time.